Well, hey folks, welcome to the channel and welcome to another episode here at Gideon's Tactical. I got to tell you today, I am really excited for this battle of the multi-tools. Now today, the two multi-tool companies that we're going to be looking at are Leatherman and SOG. Now Leatherman and SOG both have been making multi-tools for quite a while. They both have a lot of things going for them in their company, and so neither one of these companies is new to making multi-tools. And before we get into the ins and outs, and we're really going to compare these two multi-tools, and we're going to compare them in this theory and system of possibly replacing a two-tool system. The concept behind these multi-tools is really to take a multi-tool that maybe you carry on your person all the time, you EDC it, say like the Leatherman PS 4 Squirt or something like that, something small, pretty compact that you would carry on a regular basis, maybe on a keychain or on your belt. And then you also take a folding knife, a pocket knife. And many of you, including myself, probably have that integrated into your daily EDC systems. Well, the idea with these two tools that we're going to be looking at today is to replace the two-tool system, combine them together, and give us a one-tool option. And so there's the possibility today that we're going to be looking at, I'm going into it with an open mind, I hope you will too, of could these two tools possibly, if we like one of them in particular, could we possibly retire taking a folder and a multi-tool and just take one of these two tools today? So let me introduce you to these two gladiators that we have in the arena in this battle of the multi-tools. First off, we have from Leatherman, the Leatherman Skeletool. And we also have the SOG Reactor. So today, let's go ahead and dive into not only this theory of possibly taking two tools, combining them together, giving us one tool, and whether or not this may be integrated into our EDC systems and ultimately lightening our load in our EDC systems, as well as just how these tools function, which tool is better, and which tool do I gravitate to more and why, and hopefully it'll help you make a wise decision on which one of these two might fit in one of your EDC systems. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to it. So let's start with size comparison in the pocket. What's the type of real estate and weight we're looking at with these two tools? Now, obviously, just by looking at it, you can tell that the SOG Reactor is going to be the more compact option. It's going to weigh in at 4.2 ounces. So rather lightweight, very nominal for most pocket knives out there. It's going to have an overall length from front to back of 3.8 inches, and according to my measurements, a maximum thickness of like 4.8. 0.48 on the maximum thickness for this tool. Whereas on the flip side, the Leatherman is going to have an overall length of 4.2 inches, so about half an inch longer in overall length. It has a maximum thickness of 0.5 even, so maybe just a hair thicker than the SOG, and then it's going to weigh in at 5 ounces even. So you're looking at about 0.8 ounces of difference. This will be a little bit heavier and a little bit longer, so a little bit more real estate, a little bit more weight for the Leatherman, a little more compact for the SOG. You gotta have bottle openers on your multi-tools for your refreshing drinks. And with the SOG, we kind of have this little hideaway, kind of just sits inside the body there. You pop that little guy and it will pop the top, no problem. You do have to do a little bit more fiddling than you would with the Leatherman. The Leatherman not only works as a bottle opener, and I was recently just seeing how it performed, putting it on the camera, and Ashley had a big issue with me using the Leatherman and drinking the Coke that I was about to open.
Dry and actually look different. Whoa, are you drinking that?
So in spite of Ashley's intense dislike for me drinking that soda at the moment, this is a very good bottle opener. It's easier to grab than the SOG on the lip, and then it does act as a secondary attachment point with that kind of carabiner system. Works great for attaching either to a belt loop on your belt, or attaching to the interior, exterior of packs. So I really like that feature a lot. So let's go ahead and talk about, in my opinion, probably the most important aspect of these two multi-tools. If I'm going to consider retiring a folder and just carrying these, not only does the knife have to be very accessible, but it has to just feel good in the hand and just be an overall easy deployment and usefulness for me. So we're going to take a look here at the SOG first. And what we have here is a black coated blade. And this is what's really cool and just kind of stands out right away, is that this is an open assisted multi-tool. It has a spring in there, flings right open, real nice and quick. So the deployment is very fast. I like that aspect a lot. So this is going to be an 8CR13 MOV steel blade. This is a Chinese made multi-tool. Now 8CR13 MOV is a decent budget steel. There are lots of folders out there that, holds a decent steel, holds a decent edge, takes a very easy edge. And so it's just, for a budget, it's not by any means a premium steel. Now the cutting edge is 2.25 inches overall length. It is a hollow grind, kind of that reverse sheep's hoof design, and just it really gets the work done that you would expect from a multi-tool and from a small compact EDC knife. It's going to fly through all your different materials that we have looked at and have tested this on, and I've had this for about a month now of daily EDCing this in comparison with the Leatherman, tag teaming them every other day, swapping them out, so that I can not only get the concept of replacing the folder, but also just this performance. And I got to tell you, for the average EDC task around town, on your person, this definitely gets the job done, from opening packaging, cardboard cutting, rope cutting, and all those type of applications. And it's going to hold a decent edge, and it'll be very easy to get a hair popping sharp edge back on it. Now with that open assisted feature, and again, just whips out super fast. Really like that, really cool. There is a safety like you would expect on a lot of SOGs and other assisted opening knives. It's this little red lever right here. When it's down, it's locked open, and you can deploy it all day long, no issues. And then if you're worried about it deploying in your pocket or you have children around, you can push it up, and then it will not deploy the blade. And it's very secure, so if it's up, it's not going to be bumped down. If it's down, it's not going to be bumped up. You really have to manually give it that nice little click to make it work that way for you. So that's nice in the open assisted feature that they do offer that. I could take it or leave it. It's not, this safety feature, but this thumb stud is a problem for me. This thumb stud is very small and narrow and just is uncomfortable not only to grab, but I find myself oftentimes bumping it and missing it the first time I want to deploy it. Now the reason for that is because it's so close to the frame and the body of the multi-tool, so they didn't want it snagging your pocket. So I appreciate that, but they really should have just gone with a finger notch over the thumb stud, and that would have made it easier, and then we wouldn't have had to worry about making such a small thumb stud. So that is a complaint of mine. It's kind of difficult to actuate sometimes because of the placement and size that they decided to go with. So finally, I want to show you also the frame lock. This is a frame lock. As you can see there, actuates well. No real issues there. They give you a little bit of jimping, so it's easy for you to grab and move out of the way. It is rather thin though, so just know that it is a very slim liner lock. It gets the job done for the tasks that you would expect this little blade to perform, but I would have liked to see that maybe a little bit thicker. Now where the SOG may be really flashy and new to the market, and it's like, ooh, cool, open assisted multi-tool, that's sweet. The Leatherman is much more rustic and, in my opinion, easier to use when it comes to deploying. Now we have the finger hole right here, similar to what you'd expect like maybe on a Spyderco, but they've grounded in such a way it catches your thumb very easily there. I really like that. And then I can easily, without even flicking my wrist, deploy it. So it's real smooth, real fast, and I like that aspect of the knife a lot. And then I can just disengage the liner lock and close it back up, and again, whip it right open. And a lot of that is made possible by the bronze bushings in there, if you can see that right in here, which makes it a very smooth deployment. Now, where the SOG is all Chinese made, the Leatherman is all USA made. So that's really cool to see that. And you can tell in the overall just fit and finish and quality, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the ergonomics in a minute, that there's a lot more, the Leatherman feels higher quality. It just does. There's no way around it. It just feels higher quality. They've done a better job of machining all the angles and that type of stuff. Now, the blade is 420 high carbon steel. If you know Leatherman, that's what they use in majority of their blades. It's a decent Steel, I would say, is basically on par with the HCR13 MOV steel that they're using on the SOG. It's going to hold similar edge retention. It's going to be similar in the rust resistance, and is, you know, just a decent budget steel, and it's going to get the job done, and it's very easy to get a hair popping edge on it. Now this also has a reverse kind of sheep's hoof design. We have a hollow grind. This is a combo edge, 1/3 of it being that serrations, 2/3 of it being that plain edge. The overall length is 2.6 inches with an actual cutting edge of 2.4 inches. Now, I gotta tell you, as I began to use this in my EDC tasks, for a combo edge, it performed well. I am not a fan of combo edges. I prefer plain edge knives in general. I have very few combo edges. So for a combo edge, it does well because the teeth are rather shallow. I went through all the cardboard cutting, all the nylon rope, all those different things. Nylon rope, it snags a little bit. That's because of the teeth. And again, I believe a well-tuned plain edge will cut better and smoother versus serrations. But all the different materials that we went through, very pleased with this performance, and will absolutely complete any EDC task that I put before the Skeletool. So I was very happy with that. Good size as well, and just a good performer in that sense. Now the Leatherman also has that liner lock, and it's about the same thickness as on the SOG, and definitely gets the job done for the EDC task that you're expecting this multi-tool to handle. Neither one of these multi-tools is like a hard use tactical blade or something like that. There is slight flexing. When I did really harder tasks, put a lot of pressure on, I could feel it flexing slightly, but it hits dead center, and it's going to get the job done for the task that the blade can handle. So let's look at the pocket clips. Again, if this is going to be replacing my pocket knife, I better be able to put it in my pocket with a pocket clip, and it better be able to be accessed very quickly. Well, I got to say, for both of these guys, they get the job done. Now the SOG, I believe, is a little bit better designed, and the reason for that is because it's a little bit more compact, and it's that deep ride loop over design that you can expect from most SOG products. So that makes it ride real deep in the pocket, which is awesome, and just doesn't really take up a lot of real estate, as we've spoken about, and is right around that 4.2 ounces. So the pocket clip in combination just with the overall frame and size of the multi-tool works great, and basically feels like I'm carrying a pocket knife in my pants, you know, for the day, which is awesome. And I love that deep ride. They do even give you this little hole right here, so you could run a lanyard if you desire. Now the Leatherman is similar, but not quite as deep ride. As you can see, there's about 1/4 of an inch sticking up out of my pocket, but it is a very good swept pocket clip. It does the job well. It's very slim as well, so it's not going to get in the way, and it keeps the pocket, or excuse me, the multi-tool easily accessible, and feels just like a slightly larger folder than, say, the SOG. So it still makes me feel like I'm carrying a pocket knife in my pants, which is awesome. So the two plier heads are basically the same. They're, I would say, on the smaller end of a needle nose pliers. They have very similar teeth setups. They kind of have a snub nose, needle nose setup. They both have cutting instruments. Now, obviously, the Leatherman is going to be a form of 420 stainless, and it is USA made. And then the SOG is going to be, I believe, 2CR13 MOV steel or something like that, Chinese made steel. I haven't seen one being stronger than the other. I would say they're very comparable in their capabilities. The one thing that you'll notice here with the Leatherman is that it works great, does everything that you would expect a medium to lightweight tool to do, but it also has a kind of a secondary notch in there for either hard wire cutting, so like baling wire or something like that, or it works great for stripping wire as well. But overall, for the Leatherman, works fantastic. The SOG, the same thing, works great, cuts wire, does smaller to medium sized bolts and nuts and those type of things, the needle nose things that you would need. It doesn't have that little kind of notch in the teeth to be able to do any type of stripping, but it does on the back side here have wire crimpers. So that is something that the Leatherman does not. So it's kind of a trade-off, which one's more important to you. The SOG offers crimpers, the Leatherman offers kind of a harder wire / wire stripper feature. Now here's really where the rubber meets the road, and I start seeing a lot of problems with just the overall design of the SOG, is in this arm. This really tiny arm is a big issue, because as we begin to use the tool, what I found was I cannot get very good leverage on the tool to get a good cut. There's just a little arm here versus a huge sweeping arm on the Leatherman, which really gives me the ability to open that sucker up and get a really good clamp on it and get as many fingers as possible and just get really good leverage on the tool. So right out of the gate, that was one thing I started to notice, is that there's a really spindly little leg and then a nice big large sweeping leg, and the Leatherman definitely gives me more leverage. Now the other thing to consider as well is that there are these little gears right here that SOG calls their compound gears. Is supposed to double the pressure of your cut. Now I haven't seen that in the sense of that it cut wire twice as easy as the Leatherman. I haven't seen that to be the case, but what ends up happening with this gears, it's not necessarily a problem. I mean, it's just there, and that's what they claim that it does. But what happens is, in order for me to open up these pliers all the way to their maximum width, I have to take the handles all the way out. As you can see, the heads are still extending to about there, possibly even a little bit farther. Yep, they're still going right about there. That's wide. That's as wide as the heads will go, and look at how wide the handle is. I mean, that's impossible for me to try and get a good grip. Whereas to get the exact same distance with the heads on the Leatherman, you can see a huge difference in the angle proportions. The Leatherman, I can easily get my hand in there, get a good clamp, and I can get larger wire in there, or, you know, just get around something rather easy and then do my clamp. With this thing, it's not gonna happen. So that combined with the little mini spindly leg here just really create a lot of problems. And honestly, though the head is designed fine and cuts through and uses, you know, can do nuts and bolts and all those type of things and cuts wire very easily, it makes it very difficult with the little leg for leverage, as well as the really wide stance that it has to have to get around anything. Let's talk about the screwdriver bits for both of these multi-tools. You know, it's very important to have this. Now, we'll talk about the SOG first because it's new. Now, it has the secondary arm, as we've kind of been discussing a little bit here today, that is actually just the holder for the bit. This arm does nothing else aside from hold it. This is not where you're supposed to actually use the bit, and this is just a standard 1/4 inch hex head bit. So any 1/4 inch hex head bit that you may own will also be able to fit in here. This comes with one Phillips, one flathead. You can see right there. But instead of using it there, it's designed to fit back here. And you can see they have these little magnets on either side in this little seating arrangement where you just clamp the little bit in place there, and now you're able to use it more like a standard kind of short screwdriver. Now in concept, I really like this idea. It gives you a really solid, straightforward motion when you are using the bit. The problem that I have is you have got to squeeze this thing as tight as possible. You really have to just, you know, almost make your hands red, you know, and get that blood flowing into your hand and pinching around the multi-tool. Otherwise, the bit starts to spin inside there. So I would have liked to either see a latch or just make it in some other fashion so it doesn't have to necessarily do that. I like the placement. It's kind of unique. It's a little different. It definitely gets the job done, but that is something to just kind of be aware of. If you're having to put any sort of leverage at all on there, or even if you just kind of let loose of your hand a little bit, if there's not a lot of pressure on the bit could even either fall out or it'll start to spin. So that is a little frustrating for me. Now the Skeletool is pretty standard, what you'd expect from most Leathermans. It's kind of got that squared flat head or flat bit system. It comes with a set of flat heads and it comes with a set of Phillips heads. The spares, whichever ones you're not using at the time, sit into the body right there. They never want to pop out. It's very secure in there. And then you do have the bit area with the little lever that you have to press and depress to kind of release the bit in there. So it's nice and secure. It's not going to fall out while you're EDCing it in your pocket or whatever. And then you can either use it in a kind of a standard screwdriver system like this, or you could kind of do it in a pistol grip, which is actually what I tend to do. And it kind of feels like you got like a ratchet or something like that, and works really well and definitely gets the job done with zero complaints. So here's another thing to kind of consider here is that the SOG, and I kind of referred to it at some point here in the video, I don't remember where exactly, but a lot of the angles are really sharp, particularly the liner lock right here and this other frame piece right here are very thin and very sharp. And so when you're grabbing the multi-tool and you're using it, you know, for the knife and the knife ergonomics, it's really kind of brutal to your hand down here. It's nice and rounded up here, no real issues up above, but the lower portion is very, I'll just say it, uncomfortable. It's just not good when you're putting a lot of leverage on the multi-tool. I wear large size gloves. You can see there I can get my whole hand on there, no problem. So that's good in the size range, but you can't put a lot of hard pressure, and you can definitely tell not only just in the quality that, you know, there's just a lot of sharp angles there, but the comfortability as well. On the flip side, the Leatherman has all of the angles rounded off very nicely, no issues at all. And you can see there I got plenty of room out the back to spare there. So that's just something to consider. You can just kind of feel the difference in quality, but man, I can just squeeze this as hard as I want. Doesn't create any sort of hot spots, doesn't create any sort of biting into my hand. They really thought through, how is this gonna feel in someone's hand, and we wanna make it as ergonomic as possible, and they've definitely done that well. Okay, so the prices on these two are actually very competitive for what they're offering. Now, they're both gonna be right around the $50 mark on Amazon. We'll have links in the description below, so depending on which one is connecting with you or whichever one you wanna try out, if you wanna use those links, it's always a fantastic way to support the channel. But that's where I purchased both of these, was off of Amazon. The Reactor's brand new, and I think I paid like $52 for it, and I got a deal on the Skeletool, and I think I paid like $42 for it. But usually they're going to be right around the $45 to $50 mark is what you're going to be paying. Just remember that you are getting a Chinese-made product for about 50 bucks. You're getting a US product for about $50. So that's really my only hang-up, is I would have liked to see the SOG maybe more around the $35 to $40 mark, because it's all Chinese made, and then, you know, around 50 bucks for the Leatherman would make sense to me because it's all USA made and all the stuff that are going into it. So I think the SOG is maybe about $5 or $10 overpriced in my opinion, but they're both very comparable and are battling for the exact same price point. Well, it's time for us to wrap up this battle of the multi-tools, and if you haven't been able to figure it out by this point, I got to tell you, between the two, the Skeletool wins the battle of the multi-tools. The SOG Reactor has many things going for it. I think there's a lot of potential there, a lot of great ideas, but it just was executed poorly in my opinion. Maybe in future generations, SOG will be able to kind of hone some of these things and give us a really competitive option to the Skeletool. But between the two, and if you're really considering this idea, I would say pass on the Reactor, go with the Skeletool. And now in that concept, now that we've kind of gotten, you know, and figured out, okay, which of the two wins the battle, okay, can this concept, and does it work for me and my systems, and possibly you and your systems, could the Skeletool really replace, and would I replace this folder and a multi-tool, get rid of these guys, and just carry the Skeletool? I say yes, the potential is absolutely there. For the exact same amount of weight and real estate that these two guys take up, this Skeletool is going to give me the exact same cutting edge length. It's going to give me better, bigger pliers. It's going to be better, bigger bits for my screwdrivers, and it just gives a lot of options for me. Now, I love multi-tools and blades, so I'm never going to, you know, necessarily totally just go to a one-tool system. But for many of you out there, this, I think, may be a great option and a great idea. And since having dived into the Skeletool, because I was kind of skeptical about this whole idea, you know, let's keep a multi-tool, keep a folder, and those are never going to, you know, cross over. But I think that Leatherman has done a fantastic job with the Skeletool of being this kind of crossover idea, and there are definitely days where I go out and I know I'm going to do a lot more work with a multi-tool, but I still want that really fast access to a pocket knife without a lot of weight and not a lot of real estate. And then on those days, I leave a folder at home and I leave this little multi-tool, take it off the key ring, and bam, I bust this guy out and I rock that. I love it so much, I'm going to be getting the CX version very soon, so you will be seeing a video sometime this year on the original Skeletool and the CX version that's upgraded with some carbon fiber and a plain edge 154 cm blade. So that's how much I love it. That's how much I feel it can integrate into my EDC system. So hopefully this video, if anything, is just kind of giving you some food for thought, seeing, hey, could this fit and integrate into your EDC systems? Obviously, that's up to you to decide, but I definitely see huge potential for it, and it definitely is going to be now integrated into my EDC systems depending on the day and depending on what I'm going to need to do. The one thing I just want to touch on real brief that I don't see this really excelling at is in outdoor use. I wouldn't carry this on a hiking trip or a backpacking trip. In that sense, I would be carrying my Leatherman rebar or a super tool, because it has a saw, it has plain edge, it has files, it has awls, it has a lot more tools that I would use out there in the wilderness. This, it's not a wilderness multi-tool at all for me in my mind. So with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for checking out the channel. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. Check us out on all the relevant social media. And as always, remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.